Hey everybody, welcome back to This Deluxe Life TV. My name is T.
And my name is Kareem.
And we are here to talk about Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode 18, possibly. But it's the reunion show. You know what it is. Reunion show Part 1. But before we get into that, I want to ask you to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and to give you a preemptive to get down in the comments and talk to us. Talk back and let us know what you think about what we thinking about. And before we jump into our opinions, I want to have Kareem tell you about his channel.
My channel is All The Way Live Media, where I get on the camera and I talk about all kinds of content that I think is cool and nerdy and geeky, and you should come on over. It's a good time.
It is a good time. Let's run into it. So first of all, there wasn't like a lot of surprises here, but there was one couple that I was a little surprised that they were still together. But let's start with. Do we want to start with Katina and Olajuwon?
We can start with them, I guess.
Okay. Katina and Olajuwon. This was not, for me, the couple that I was surprised that stayed together. I think I said to you on decision day that if they were to ever get divorced, that it will be a really tough decision for them, because they do both seem to take the commitment and the step of marriage very seriously. However, this was not ever a couple that I was excited about. I just felt like they didn't belong together. So, they did decide to say yes on decision day, and 4 or 5 months later, they recorded the reunion episode, and they are still together, and they seem to be happy.
Yeah, they seem to be getting along. It looks like Olajuwon has kind of turned some corners. He has been looking back on some of his past activities or antics, and he seems to be genuinely disappointed at least what he did, but not the reason why.
Right.
And I think the problem is, in many of those cases, the reason why was actually even worse than what you did. I felt like he was, in many cases, abusive to Katina, but she seemed to go along with it, and she wasn't always accepting of it. There were instances where she felt like she just had to fight, and we saw her just getting to a point where she just couldn't take it anymore. But I don't think for her, leaving or calling it quits was ever an option. Olajuwon pretty much made her work for it, and she worked to kind of earn his dismarriage, which was just kind of bizarre to me. I feel like they should both be working for it.
Right.
But Olajuwon felt like he was the prize at the end of the tunnel.
Very, very much so.
He made it known, and Katina was down for it. So maybe in that way, they gave these people essentially maybe not what they wanted, but what they needed.
And I still feel like he still thinks that he's the prize. You still hear him talking about my wife. One time in this conversation, he talked about that she knows her husband, but he hasn't ever talked about himself in terms of husband level, husband skills, husband responsibilities. Like, he never ever talks about that, and still has not, which also makes me feel like some of his self-reflection is for play. I feel like they've watched the series. They said they have. They know how people are talking about him. And I think that part of it is he knew he had to come across as remorseful or save face some, because, as you mentioned, he expressed sorrow for how he did things, not what he did. And like you said, that is the most important part.
Yeah, and he seems to be the type of person who he needs somebody to really scream on him. I think a lot of his life, I think having father figures in his life, especially losing his dad at a young age, was something that kind of mattered to him the most, and he wasn't going to get that on the show. You said that he got that in some ways with Pastor Cal, but they never paired him with Pastor Cal, perhaps, because they didn't want things to improve.
Right.
and you needed that kind of content cash cow that Elijah Wan was for this show, because everybody needed a villain, and it was between him and Lindsey. Both of them was going to be like super villainous. So, but I think I do think that there's love there. He gave her, a wedding ring or an engagement ring. Which,
they said "I love you" for the first time.
Yeah, and I think it's sincere, the love, but I totally am on board with the idea that he's still not, really affirming her the way that he should, and he doesn't really have any intentions to.
I definitely do have my concerns there. Like we talked about the tears that were happening on the show, both his tears and hers. And of course she had tears of joy when she got the ring, and was really happy and excited, and I got a little tear for her, because I enjoy seeing people happy, but at that same moment there was like his tearfulness about kind of all that had transpired, and I honestly didn't feel anything as it related to that, because I've just been so turned off on him in general. And going back to that point of, he expressed sorrow about the way that he did things, but not what he did, which I think is, germane to the whole issue for me. So I personally don't have really high hopes that they'll go the distance, because I do feel like the way that you behave under pressure, and granted the television show is a high pressure situation, but marriage also is a high pressure situation, and there will be more. And so the way that you act under pressure is how you act under pressure, like that's the way that you carry yourself. And I feel like she deserves so much better. At the same time, I'm not rooting against them. I would never do that. I'm not a hater. I'm happy that she's happy, and I hope that they can grow together and be happy together.
Yeah, so who's next? Noy and Steve?
Sure.
So Noy and Steve, I didn't think that they made a great couple.
Yeah, I still don't feel that.
But they're, out of all of the couples, I can see them lasting the longest. Well, yeah. I mean, Elijah Wan and Katina, obviously they stayed together, and they stayed together after Decision Day. They haven't broken up yet, at least to this point. And I think Noy and Steve could probably go the furthest. I think they are learning to work with each other. I think they said that they said that they went to couples therapy.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like they're still in counseling.
So that's giving them the tools to get along with each other. Steve talked to us a little bit more about his financial sources, and it's probably been clear for the last couple of weeks, really, that Steve has some money in the bank. Mm-hmm. But you can't live off of that, and Noy is probably still concerned, and rightfully so, of what his future earning potential is, because
his work ethic,
and because nobody wants to live with uncertainty. Like,
right.
Things might be good for you, Steve. Like, you might be willing to make those sacrifices when, you might be willing to do the belt tightening, but Noy is definitely afraid of the belt tightening because of where she came from.
Right.
She told us a little bit more about her mom and, seeing the struggles that her parents went through when she was growing up, and she doesn't want to go back to that. Mm-hmm. She wants a comfortable life. And Steve, you got to do more than just, I got a secret and I'm going to keep it kind of mentality when it comes down to finances. Mm-hmm. I think even from the jump, like, just as soon as it became something that she clearly needed to know about, you should have told her, all right, so I got this money out of Bitcoin, I got this investment open, I got that investment open, I sold this company a few years ago for X amount of dollars, I still got that in the bank, so we cool if we budget this, that, and the third, we can live for another 3 to 4 years just off of that, and of course with your income we could probably live even longer. So my goal is, once the money starts to get down to this, I'm going to go ahead and start pursuing additional work or means of earning an income. I really think a conversation just that simple could have gone a long way, and I don't think Noi ever really got that.
No.
Maybe she got that somewhat after, but it seems like the concern is still there.
Yeah.
So, but she's probably a little bit more cool knowing what he's got in the bank.
Right.
Because they even talked about on the after party, they, I believe Keisha was asking him, so essentially Noi said you need to have at least $40K in the bank for her to be good, and she just basically Noi had just pulled that number out of nowhere, and she was like, yeah, we're good, so yeah, I think that's the answer Noi had got, at least until maybe they started to really kind of
right. And I think too, like it does seem like that it's been a big benefit to them that they went immediately into couples counseling. It definitely helps them with their communication skills. We saw Sriracha come on the show and also bring out the fact that Steve can be condescending in the way that he speaks with Noi, and like we've seen that. And we also have seen Noi be passive aggressive, which, the secretiveness and the condescension on Steve's part, the passive aggressiveness and immaturity in some areas on Noi's part, really made us feel like this couple is not ready to be a couple. They're not ready for marriage probably with anybody, and they're not ready for marriage with each other. However, they are still together. They are doing their best to make it work. I'll wish them all the best with that. It does seem like Noi is coming around to living together, that they're living together now kind of like 6 days out of the week.
They're together 6 days out of the week, but they haven't moved in. And I think...
No. She did say that she lives at his apartment, but she does keep her own apartment, and she's at his apartment like 6 days a week.
Okay.
So, they're coming around. They're talking about having children soon. They said still like within a year, something like that. So, I'm glad for them. I hope they actually do go the distance. So, I look forward to hearing their updates.
Awesome.
Let's jump into Jasmina and Michael. So, Jasmina and Michael, they did say yes on decision day, as we all know. And then 2 weeks later, Michael said no. Apparently, they had not made a plan for what their living arrangements would look like. They had not even made a plan for how often they'd see each other or how they would communicate. Seems like they weren't talking very much. Jasmina said that she was making the efforts with a morning text. And I was like, wow, pick up the phone, Kareem has to tell me to stop calling him, I'm at work. What do you want? You okay? But they're like, we going to text? But this is how the relationship is going to grow? You think not. And then, go ahead. You want to say something?
I was just going to say, so it definitely wasn't enough there for Michael to come around. They started expressing essentially how they'd had a couple of nasty fights. And the last one was the worst one. And that's when they was just decided to call it quits.
Yeah, I thought she said one nasty fight.
I thought it was a couple of fights, but one was like the last one was like the last straw.
I didn't hear it that way, but it doesn't really matter.
I think it was for both of them, but Michael is the one that basically, I don't know if he called her or texted her.
It sounds like he called her.
But he said that this isn't working out for me. To me, it sounded like he texted her, but he just said this isn't working out for me. I'm not getting what I want out of this, and it's time to call it quits. And it was for the best. I could tell Jasmina really wasn't bothered by it. It seems like maybe they're not friends, obviously, but we saw it was kind of throwing us off a little bit. Their posture.
She was sitting so close.
Was actually a lot more relaxed than it was during any point in the show.
Well, of course, because this is somebody that she's friendly with, that she knows cares for her in some regard, and that she doesn't have any obligation to.
Yeah, so she was like all up on him, and she, kind of they don't hate each other. But
right.
there was still some drama there, because whenever you start to talk about issues and people don't see on the same page, and they break up as a result of those issues were never resolved.
Right.
So, if you bring them up, and Kevin is doing what a host would do and bring them up, they're going to get the exchange got a little heated there. I was like, oh man, they're going to break up again.
They gonna break up. They break up.
Yeah. So.
And so apparently, one of the things that we did get a little bit more clarity on is the fact that, like, when Jasmina said something about, like, they don't communicate, like, literally they wasn't speaking, like, for a month.
For that first month. Yeah.
And and Michael was saying that because she had called him aggressive when he tried to bring something to her attention that he wanted to talk about, he felt like he didn't know how to talk to her without being perceived as aggressive. So he just wasn't going to talk to her. And like, that's a decision that they made that obviously wasn't the good thing for their relationship, because they just never were really able to overcome that. I think it was a couple of things at play. From first meeting, Jasmina wasn't saying wow about Michael like he was about her. And so she didn't have that, I want to get to know you romantically type of thing happening to begin with. And then as they were struggling that first month, it just kind of went down and down and downhill. I can understand why that was happening a little more clearly now. I do feel like he was trying those last 4 weeks. I felt like she was receptive to him trying, but there were also other things that, like, we didn't know was occurring. Like Jasmina saying, like, she would compliment him, he wouldn't compliment her back. Like, like, you could tell somebody, like, trying to give you an opening and you're not taking it. And I think he was kind of like pulling a Lindsey in that regard. Like, when I pull back, I pull all the way back. You know what I mean? Just like, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm not going to reach out to her. I'm not going to try to hold her hand. I'm not going to try to do anything, because she keeps letting me know I'm not into you like that. I don't feel anything. All of those things that she says when she's saying, I'm not feeling him. So he's like, okay, you're not feeling me? Bet. Which is why we were so surprised when they said yes on decision day, but no surprise at all that didn't last.
Yeah, 2 weeks. So.
Yeah. So that's Jasmina and Michael. Do you want to go to Lindsey and Mark?
So Lindsey and Mark, I was shocked that they said yes on decision day, because you could tell they just didn't like each other. But they both said yes. They both wanted to give it a try. But, that lasted a few months. But essentially, once Mark got what he wanted, Lindsey wasn't worth it anymore. And I get that. Like, I get that, and I can see that,
that would happen. Because we talked about even in the last episode, the kind of the transactional nature of their relationship.
Yeah.
So that was not a surprise. That, number one, that, they got the house done and then it blew up. You know what I mean? Like, because I felt when Mark said yes, it was two things at play. One was his friend saying, oh, you've been seeing progress in the last 2 weeks. You have to not take that as, oh, that's 2 good weeks out of 8. That's progress. You're seeing progress. So, like, he's looking at that. And then he's also looking at the fact that I do want to, like, she already said that she wants to renovate this house. And, I think I do want to do that. And she will help me do that. So I have these 2 things going for me. And if it doesn't work out, like, it probably is not going to work out, at least I got that done. You know what I mean? And truly, that is exactly what happened. Like she said, like, the last moving box is coming in and he's telling her to get out.
And that was after they'd had some fights where threats were made, and I believe it on both ends. I believe that, when Lindsey's going to cut like she's going to cut deep.
I mean, we've seen that time and time again.
That's just her motto. Like that's her MO. That's what she does. I think I made the analogy that, you know, just like Lindsey is like basically a gremlin.
Yeah. Please don't feed her after midnight.
Yeah.
And don't give her alcohol.
Yeah, that's giving her alcohol is like feeding her after midnight. And she can really snap, and it probably got worse when the cameras was off.
Yeah.
And it was probably the best thing. And you know, in so many ways, I think Lindsey got what she wanted out of the deal. Like Lindsey probably got somebody that was dependent on her, somebody that she could belittle whenever she felt like she needed to, or even for just entertainment purposes. She had Mark. Mark is a simple guy. Mark probably likes to have a good time, but Mark told us, you know, how he'd gotten bullied when he was younger, and the way Lindsey is treating him, he felt like he was getting bullied. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't feel like you're getting bullied in your marriage.
Right.
And that's essentially where it was. So once Mark realized that, hey, this is about as good as it's going to get, the house is done, or at least in acceptable condition, you know, it's time to go. Lindsey read a little letter talking about
the Lindsey effect.
Yeah, about how she likes to leave people better.
Not likes to, but that she does.
She tends to leave people better than they were when she found them. And that's really true as far as Mark's situation, you know. Mark's in a better living situation, a better work situation, and he's lost weight, so he's in a better kind of health situation.
But I also think like the living situation, yes, we saw her help him get out of his first apartment. We know that she helped him clean out his grandmother's apartment, and then we know that she helped him fix up his grandmother's apartment. We don't know if she had anything to do with his improved job. Just because it happened during the time they were together doesn't mean that it had anything to do with her. Even when it comes to the weight loss, doesn't mean that had anything to do with her.
But what I do think is that having a partner who wants to see you do better can go a long way. Like, they don't have to do a thing. Like, they don't have to actually, you know, do something. But when you got somebody that is going to partner up with you and take some of the other burdens off your hands, if you feel like you're stressed with your living situation and stuff like that, then it can make other things easier. So,
I mean, that's true. And I'm just saying, in that situation, we don't know if she's really claiming credit for it because that credit is due, or if she's claiming credit for it because it happened while they were together.
And probably the latter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the Lindsey effect. So
that's Lindsey, what she's saying.
Lindsey talked about moving to Palo Alto, California, how she believes that the crowd there is more intellectual rather than creative, which doesn't really strike me for California, but maybe it's the part of California that she's in. I don't know, Palo Alto, San Francisco. If they're close to each other, that's what it seems like.
I have no idea.
Not great with geography, but yeah. So Lindsey was pretty much just taking those final jabs.
She's like, you know, I'm dating somebody who's she said I was dating somebody, and I kept like thinking to the TV, like, but you don't even date him no more. Like, what you talking about? You know, but like, he is generous and he's smart and he's this, and Kevin's like, oh, so are you saying that Mark is not any of those things? She's like, no, he's not, definitely not.
Yeah, she was just running Mark into the ground.
And like, here's the thing, and that's also why I'm like, Mark had to have known how this was going to go down, and this had to been a risky reward for him that he was willing to take, because she has belittled him at every single opportunity. And it's like, and you really thought that this was going to be the relationship that you wanted to stay in. You didn't really think that, you know, like, you're not a dumb guy. You didn't think that. And so I definitely felt like he knew that it was the risk he was willing to take in order to get some things done that he wanted to get done. Yeah.
So they're not together. Because good riddance. It definitely was expected for them to break up. And who else? I guess
Chris and Alyssa.
Chris and Alyssa. Alyssa basically acknowledged the fact that it's become a running joke that she is a good person.
But she's not.
Person. She's not a good person. And, you know, like, sometimes you think that camera editing is doing this or making this seem worse. But it was never really like that with Alyssa.
No, and in fact, they had even more examples that we hadn't seen
that were worse.
Of her being an even worse person.
And Chris was sitting there like, yeah, if I heard that, you know, because this was on the honeymoon. Mm-hmm. Chris like, if I heard that, I would have called it quits right then and there.
Right.
And, you know, she did not have any real reason to dog him out like that, except for the fact that this is just who she is as a person, which is not good. She tried to claim that she didn't know that she was saying.
I don't know what I'm saying. I wasn't thinking straight. I was so stressed because I didn't get what I want. I didn't get anything that I wanted, and I wasn't having a temper tantrum because I was having a temper tantrum, but I wasn't. I just didn't know what I was saying.
Yeah, and she definitely was trying her best to because she sees how messed up this is. And she's like, but I'm a good person. I wouldn't say those things. And I'm pretty sure if the cameras weren't rolling, she would deny to the end.
Yep.
But the cameras was rolling, caught her cleaning the act a couple times. She tried to play it off like she was in it for she was in it for the right reasons. Like she said that multiple times. She even said it during the season. She said she was in it for the right reasons. I came into this with the best intentions, and maybe she did, but the moment she saw that she didn't get the tin cowboy with good teeth that she wanted, her best intentions were thrown out the window,
right?
And her language immediately turned to the experience.
Yep.
And you can't have the experience without having the
process.
husband.
Yeah,
like you can't you need that's what the experience is. You can't sit there and be a single person in a group process and in a group experiment where everybody else is married.
Right.
You can't be what would that have made her, the seventh wheel?
Right.
Or the ninth wheel. You can't be the ninth wheel. You got to be. You got to be there with your husband, and there's nothing that says you can't get along with this man.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, she really tried to say, he didn't look the way I wanted him to look. He didn't have the type of job I wanted him to have. We don't have similar hobbies, and his friends told me he was terrible. So I'm out, but I'm not out though because I want to have this experience. And, he's like, just be honest. If you're not trying to be part of the process, you're not trying to be a part of the process. But don't, piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. You know what I mean? And she really, just even to the end, I didn't know what I was saying. I am a good person. I was in it for the right reasons. All of those things. And I'm like, but when you look at your actions, how did basic human decency just go out the window like that?
Out the window.
You didn't have to treat him like that. You didn't try to get to know him at all.
And Chris did nothing to deserve it.
Really did.
He didn't get an opportunity. He didn't get an opportunity to show us his bad side.
Right.
I feel like every other person on this show had some drama with them. Mm-hmm. Chris didn't have a single opportunity. It was from day one, Chris was just here. And it was the loneliest thing that you could see. He's trying to enjoy himself,
And he's trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, at least while they're on the honeymoon. Maybe she just needs a moment to settle and come around to the idea of us getting to know each other. And I think by the time it got to that group dinner that night, it was clear to him that she didn't want to get to know him at all. He was like, you know what? Yeah, I see how this is going to go. And he even said, after that is when they had the conversation in the hotel lobby. And he said when her language changed from experience as in staying at the apartment, hanging out with the friends, being a part of the things that the show sets up. When it changed from the experience to the the process to the experience, and the process meaning like actually getting to know the person that you married at first sight, like that was his clue that this is not going anywhere. And it was even said that like the day after their wedding, they had to actually go and sign their marriage license, and she was even on the phone with her attorney, like, do I have to do this contractually, and so like that should have been, a red flag even for him even then, but he was still willing to treat her with the gentleness and kindness and decency that she wasn't giving back to him. So there's nothing you could tell me that make me feel like Alyssa's a good person.
Yeah, she was trying to cap like the whole split in the apartment thing. Like,
so, it's about distance, because if we're going to be filming, we both live really far away, and so I was just thinking it'd be easier for us both.
I think she was really she wanted the apartment and she didn't want him there.
Right.
So the idea of sharing the apartment with him was like offensive for her. And he was just like, well, no, I want to be here. I want the whole thing.
And she's like, so you're telling me I can't come? No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, these are literally 2-bedroom apartments. You know what I mean? Like, you could be there if you want to be. But no, she ain't want to be. So that's how they ended up. Next week is part 2, where maybe they'll dig a little bit deeper into what they, saw when they watched the show back, or into how their relationships are going now. It looks like there was quite a few tears shed from several of the couples. So I'm curious to see how they're actually doing. We know who's together, who's not together, but I'm curious to see how they're actually doing. So that's it for us this week. Let us know in the comments what you think about this episode and what you think about our thoughts. And we're looking forward to talking back to you and seeing you next week. Bye.
Peace.